On today's episode, we focus on innovations in coaching that allow for coaches on both the college and high school side to provide verifiable data and measurables through technology and AI, as well as being able to analyze and better determine the fit of a prospect in your program. On both the high school and college side, technology exists to help you better understand the talent in your pipeline. While at AFCA, I walked around and took a look at some of the most innovative products in the market and identified a dozen that can make a coach more efficient, enhance player development, and ultimately add to the win column. We sat down with representatives from Catapult, Real Analytics, and War Room to discuss the technology they developed. Please note that none of these companies paid to be on the podcast. This was purely my research and time spent with them to learn more about what they do. Some of these you may have heard of, and some will be brand new to you, but I feel that these are some of the most innovative products and services in the market that can help you as a coach. As we did on the last podcast, we asked 4 questions of each person, and it was 1, how does this make me more efficient as a coach? 2, how does this help me develop my players? 3, how does this help us win? And 4, what's the feature that coaches like the most? The objective is that you get a feel for these companies and what they can do for you as a coach, as well as for your players to help create a better game. We sat down with J.P. Gunter, a former college coach who now is the director of scouting for the Carolinas. He discussed their Thundercloud recruit service as well as the Catapult technology behind it in Catapult 1, and discussed how he can give coaches verifiable data, as well as how this product helps coaches on the high school side better prepare their players for games. We're taking some time to sit down with the director of scouting for the Carolinas for the Catapult Thundercloud recruiting service, J.P. Gunter. J.P., thanks for taking the time here to talk a little bit about what you guys do.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, for what we're talking to about everybody here, the first thing we really want to know is, as a coach, and I think there's 2 sides of this. There's a high school coach and there's the college coach. But as a coach, how does this make me more efficient?
You know, with our Thundercloud recruits system, it's a great starting point. And I'm going to talk to the college coaches because I also manage half of our collegiate accounts too when it comes to our sales team. But as for a college coach, it's a great starting point. And what I mean by that is the foundation of what your recruiting database is really established on. We get out there and we track down all contact information, parent contact information. I mean, you log into the Thundercloud recruit system, which we have shortened. It's the Scout database is what the product is called. You know, you log into there and you simply at your fingertips can have kids' social media information, verified height and weight, parents' information, where parents went to school, their contact information, even down to their profession. I grew up playing baseball. It's an analogy of you're starting on third base as opposed to collecting in the batter's box. That's a big piece of that. And then we've actually turned it up even more from going from the best complete database across all 50 states. And now we've taken in the Catapult technology of the vest and started getting out there on Friday nights and putting it on high school players and are able to really verify in-game speed metrics. And that's the key component there. How fast do kids play football? And we're able to verify that. And that lives in our database also. So not only are you getting contact information, you're getting verified speed metrics now coming through the system.
Certainly, I see how that's going to help a coach be more efficient, and the information that is moving along to the colleges are going to really help the players. But for the player side of this, how does this help them develop?
You know, and I've seen this because I work in the college space and I also work in the high school space. And I can't tell you how many high school coaches come to me and say, hey, we put this vest on our players. And there's actually an effort metric also to it. You can see every play. You can break it down play by play within the Catapult 1 database, which is the vest database. You can break it down play by play to where, you know, you can see a different effort if the play is coming to him as opposed to the play going away from him. You truly can quantify effort with this product now.
Ultimately, when a coach is looking at and investing in things, he wants to also see that this is going to help us win as well. So how does this help a coach win?
On the high school side, again, I'll come back to a lot of these guys don't realize truly how much their players run throughout the week. Our sports scientists who provide a lot of information for our customers with the Catapult One Vest, they really show that you should be running X amount of, however you want to say it, yards, miles to equate leading up to Friday. And I've had some really high level high school coaches who have been very successful for a long time change their ways because they've seen that their guys are out there. I mean, I've seen it myself out there scouting. I put a vest on a kid and I go, Coach, your kid ran 2.5 miles during pregame. And these kids get excited. They catch a punt. They want to run around and high five everybody on the field, and they go back and catch a kick. And before you know it, I look at the vest data and I'm like, you didn't kick off till 7:30, but by 6:45, you had 2 miles on your legs. It truly assists with helping the freshest team show up. And then on the college side, when it comes to scouting, I can give you a verifiable metric of, I can't tell you how many times I've written up in our reports that get sent out, nationwide to East Coast to West Coast. These speed metrics came in a football setting, be it 7-on-7, be it Friday nights. I love being able to show that, we have a metric, really we focus on 5 metrics. And one of the 5 is, I love being able to show that a kid had a high, what they call sprint yardage, literally how many yards did they sprint in a game. And that's when I say, hey, this kid plays the game hard. He also runs fast, but he plays the game hard. And I can't tell you how many times college coaches come to me and they want to see these variation of metrics, because what it does at the college level now, this technology has been at the college level for years now. Now we're allowed to, in the scouting aspect, hand it over to these FBS, FCS, even down to the Division II programs, and they can compare the players now apples to apples. You casually say, oh, well, he ran this 40. Well, who was on the clock? Was it downhill? Well, what were they running on a track? Was it grass? Was it turf? You get all of those question marks. But then when I hand you over and say, hey, this kid hit 20.75 miles per hour at West Florence against AC Flora in the playoff game, and guess what? It was his 14th game of the year, but he's still playing at a high level. There's not many question marks there. There's a lot of able to say, could that kid compared to our starting X receiver, how does those metrics play with our starting X receiver? And you really now can look at it and go, can we win in conference X, Y, and Z with this kid? Because again, it's apples to apples. He's wearing pads, he's running, he's playing football, and I can tell you how fast he plays football now.
Yeah, there's so many things here as I've dug into this and the technology and what it can do that is really impressive and opens up a lot of opportunity, I believe. But when you talk with coaches about what you guys do, what seems to be the favorite feature for them?
The top speed, I'll say it this way, is the sexy one. It's like, how fast does the guy throw the fastball? It's what everybody wants to know. For high school coaches, I think it truly is how many miles are on a kid's legs. You've got this stud kid who's playing both ways, who's your punt returner, kick returner. How do we get creative in making sure that kid shows up the freshest? And I think the total sprint yardage and mileage that you now can track on a kid, and it's very valuable. You're seeing coaches that have been in the profession for 20, 30 years get this piece of technology, and they literally can see on Friday that their team is showing up fresher because they changed the way that they approach Tuesday and Wednesday during. And then at the college level, in scouting and recruiting, these guys want the most verifiable metric that they can have. There is nobody else out there that can provide this. And it allows, again, them to compare apples to apples, to be able to say, can this kid run? Well, he hit 20 plus miles an hour in a game on Friday nights. He can run. He can play football at a high level. Or is he just a track athlete where he runs the 40 and he's a 4.4 kid, but he puts on the pads and he's not nearly as explosive and fast as what we see? I think just the data that we can pull off of in-game stats, be it how hard are you practicing during the week? Are you running your guys in the ground and your freshest team isn't showing up on Friday night? Or do you have a special 2025 who in the third round of the playoffs hit 23 on a 75-yard kickoff return? And that's now what has sparked his recruiting, because all these college coaches are coming through there saying, this kid looked like he could run, but now we know he can run, and it's verified by Catapult. I think that's the two biggest aspects. Again, high school is, are we working our guys to death? And then college is, Catapult's the only place that we can find the most truly verifiable speed metric on high school players as we start to look into the scouting.
What's the best way for our listeners to learn more?
Social media, they can reach out to myself and I can get them into the direction. Obviously, if they're a college coach and they don't subscribe to our data, or they're more interested in what we do, I function on Twitter at Coach JP Gunter. They can reach out to me there. If they're a high school coach and they're interested in, the technology side of things, we have regional guys that work with those guys, and I'll be able to direct them in that aspect. But reach out to me again at Coach JP Gunter on Twitter, and I'll be able to help them out and get them pointed in the right direction. Be it college or high school coaches, I'll be able to help them out.
Real Analytics is verified in-game athleticism data powered by AI. We are joined by Corey Yates, co-founder and CEO of Real Analytics. Real Analytics' proprietary IGA score is a measure of in-game athleticism derived from position-specific athleticism metrics extracted by their tracking technology. To train their scoring model, they measured the in-game athleticism of over 15,000 college and NFL players for current and historical context. Each metric is weighed, contextualized by percentile rankings, and scored. NFL scouts, NFL agents, and major college football programs integrate the IGA score to add objectivity into their player evaluation process. You can download a free sample of the report from their website. So here's our sit down with Corey Yates.
When I'm looking at your tool as a coach, what is it that helps me coach more efficiently?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, we're all about measuring what we call in-game athleticism. And so we're helping programs bake data-driven evaluations into their both recruiting process and self-scouting process. And so we all have heard it as coaches. I'm a former coach. The honest guy doesn't lie. And so what our technology enables us to do is to help coaches quantify what they see on film.
Yeah, and you use AI to do that, which, before we got going here, we said that's a lot more efficient than, it tells a lot more than just hitting the stopwatch. So
right.
Tell me a little bit about how that works in the product.
Yeah, so essentially what we do is we're measuring speed, acceleration, change of direction, and then we even have position-specific metrics that we actually track, and it's exclusively through video. So no wearable devices, exclusively through video. And so we're able to identify the player on film, we're able to track his speed, we're able to track his change of direction, and it really helps these coaches evaluate players in an objective way based on their functional athleticism.
Right, when you're looking at this as a coach, obviously you're going to use this tool to bring players into your program. How can it help them develop the players that are there?
Absolutely. So from a self-scouting standpoint, we're able to provide that position coach with data that the technique that they're coaching, or is it being executed on field? And then if it is being executed on field, how well is it being executed on field? So if I'm a defensive back coach, which I'm a former defensive back coach, I want to know how quickly my defensive backs are getting out of his breaks. We're able to quantify that.
Right.
And so now I can talk to my room about, hey, listen, instead of a T-step, you need to motor out of your break, because that allows you to get out of your break in 1/10 of a second faster, as an example.
Right. So we always look at this for the skill positions, but we got those guys up front in the trenches. How can this type of data help them as well?
So the technology as a whole, when you're talking about computer vision technology, is still developing in terms of being able to track the interior lineman. Once the ball is snapped, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Right. And so we're still in the process of developing a solution for that.
I think one of the most important questions coaches want to know is they walk around here and they look at all these different things. How does this help me win?
So, we've been pretty fortunate to help programs build championship rosters. And it really started during our soft launch in 2020 when Deion Sanders took over at Jackson State and brought us on board. We were able to help him win back-to-back SWAC championships by helping them identify hidden talent. They certainly have made a splash on recruiting and landing and signing, the #1 high school prospect last year. But the majority of their roster was filled with athletes that were either no-star or 3-star athletes. So we take pride in helping them build their championship roster. And then you look at what TCU has done this year. Sonny Dykes is an amazing coach. We've been fortunate enough to work with his program and his staff. But in 1 year, they've been able to put together a championship roster, and hopefully they will bring the title home tonight. But we were able to help them identify transfer portal prospects that have come in, been productive starters for them, and they're extremely happy about it. In fact, one of the players that they brought in because of our data is the second leading tackler on their team. And so we're super excited about that. And of course, UGA, we've been able to help them build a championship roster. And we all know what they've done the last couple of years, but those are just a few examples of how we're able to help teams do that.
Real quickly, have you found to be the favorite feature of coaches?
They love the fact that we're able to compare the in-game athleticism data of prospects that they're evaluating to the NFL average. So our in-game athleticism score is a grade that features all of our in-game athleticism data, position specific, so that they can stack their board and compare players based on their peers, but then they can also compare players based to the NFL average. And when I say NFL average, I'm referring to when that player was in high school, how fast did he run? What was his acceleration? How quickly did he get in and out of his breaks? What was his closing speed? What was his get-off speed? And so now they can see if that particular prospect, be it high school or transfer portal, is above or below the line, that line being the NFL average.
For our listeners, if they want to learn more about Real Analytics, where do they go?
They can visit our website. Our website is reel-analytics.net. On our website, you'll be able to see some of the features that we're able to offer from coaches, teams, athletes, even in terms of media engagement, fan engagement. And then they can also learn a little bit more about some of the prospects that we've been able to identify either as freak athletes or hidden gems. And then last but not least, they can stay current on some of the trends that are taking place from a recruiting and a player evaluation perspective.
Well, thanks for taking the time and sharing a little bit about Real Analytics.
Thanks a lot.
War Room has two products, Prep War Room and College War Room. And we spent time with Moose Bingham, a former kicker for BYU and a former college coach. He developed a solution that handles all aspects of developing a program, as well as integrates with other software that you may use. War Room is the all-in-one software that helps take your team to the next level. After being used by D1 universities for almost a decade, they're bringing the product to the high school ranks and allowing for coaches to do what they love and spend more time with players and game plans. The software includes unique features for recruiting like the trip planner, which I think saves a college coach a ton of time, and Recon, which scrapes information from the internet as well as social media through algorithms and develops a player profile to better understand that player's athleticism, character, and makeup. Here's Moose Bingham of War Room.
There's a lot of great tools around here, and I'm excited to be sitting down with Moose Bingham, who is the founder of War Room, which is a very interesting application software. It does a lot for coaches, but for the coaches, how does this make me more efficient as a coach?
So coaches, what I really want coaches to do is just that, coach. They don't want to deal with all the paperwork. They don't want to deal with the equipment. They don't want to deal with keeping track of kids' parents and all that stuff. With War Room, we take everything that you do off the field and put it in one convenient location so that they can do their job and actually do the X's and O's and build those relationships with kids, whether that's in college, prep, high school, NFL, wherever you are, this is an application that can help you out.
Aside from some of those things that are going to make me more organized and efficient, how's this going to really, though, help me develop my players?
So there's a couple things we do. We've got lifting in here, which can really help you. You can keep track of maxes, understanding where your kids are, and it can keep track of your 7th and 8th graders, making sure that your kids are coming to your school and not other schools. There's a lot of other programs that we actually have APIs with as well. So if you're like, hey, I really like this one, we can incorporate that into War Room so you have your all-in-one solution no matter what's going on in your world.
What are some of those examples?
So we work with tracking football, we work with communication platforms. We have our own in here where it actually does text messages instead of push notifications, but coaches are great. They go and they find their information from a lot of different bases for coaching, but we do the same thing on the management side.
I like how for the high school coach, they can use this. It's going to help them develop their players, like you said, 7th grade on up. Recruit your players. I mean, you know, nowadays you can't count on that kid showing up in 9th grade all the time, so you have to spend time looking at the players that you're having come through. What's your pipeline look like for your high school as well? But same thing on the college side, right? It helps with recruiting, and I was really excited about some of the features you showed me. If I was actively coaching right now and recruiting, I'd be telling my head coach, like, this is something we got to have. Tell us about some of those features that really make a coach more efficient in the recruiting side.
So the biggest feature we have is called our travel planner. In our travel planner, we can actually select high schools in a certain geographical area, and it'll map out the route, show you every single kid that's in their recruitable area, so that you're not wasting time going from one school to another where there's no kids that are applicable for what you're doing at your school. So that's my favorite tool because I come from a recruiting background.
Right.
And I've had to plan out coaches' trips. I'd get the call, hey, this kid isn't even here today. Where do I go next? And we can answer that question concisely because you only have so many recruiting days as a college coach. So that becomes difficult if you don't know where to go. And if you miss out on that kid, it's your tail on the line because that's the recruiting area you're responsible for.
For coaches, bottom line isn't how much does this cost. They're going to want to know that for sure, but especially for them is how does this help me win? So what's the bottom line for that?
So the bottom line is being organized, finding the right players, making sure that you are spending time coaching and developing relationships is where you're going to get your wins. Because NIL is a real thing. You have to find kids before they're there. You have to make sure that relationship is solid because when someone comes in with X amount of money, your pitch is already in the kid's head. You've had those touch points with a kid and you know that he's going to come there no matter what else is thrown out because you were the first ones to establish that relationship and contact.
For the high school coach and the guys that you work with, what have you found to be their favorite feature?
So interestingly enough, high school coaches, the thing that drives them the most crazy is equipment, which always makes me laugh. So our equipment tool is amazing. We go over how much each piece costs, who's got it, what grew legs, where it ran off to. So these high school coaches are more organized and keeping money in their program so they don't have to replace that equipment and can buy a great sled or VR or whatever they need to do to make sure their kids are better and not wasting time on buying another helmet for a kid that walked off with it.
On the college side, what have you found to be the favorite feature for college coaches?
So there's been a bunch of features. One of the features I think is our trip planner, but another one is called our recon tool.
Yes.
Our recon tool does a ton of amazing things. We've had portions of it where it can personality test. We've had portions of it where it can go in and show who's committed from other schools. And we have bots going all over the internet, finding the information you need, including the transfer portal, including everything that you need so that you can know exactly what your opponents are doing. Because you're not going to go into a game and not game plan and be like, oh, this team's running a wing tee or this team's running a spread and you're running a bear defense against a spread. You got to know exactly what your opponent's doing so you can counteract that. Just like in coaching, recruiting is so important.
Yeah, I love the recon feature. And when you're thinking about building a program today, with all the things that have come up to make this even more dynamic and complex with the transfer portal, you have to go beyond some of the measurables and figure out who is this guy? Is he a fit for a program? And you guys could help with that.
Yeah, one of the big ones for me when I was recruiting was Tanner McKee. We found out that he had religious preferences. Before we even met him, we're like, he wants to stay close to home, he wants to do this. I didn't end up getting him, but we had a better chance to get them, and it came down to us and one other school.
And where's that information coming from?
So we go through his Twitter, we find different things, there's different algorithms we use. It's a really proprietary thing, but it's been fun to figure out how to do it and what to do.
Yeah, great stuff here. I love what you guys are doing with the product. You guys introduced it to me, I think, a couple years ago, and it's been fun to see how you've progressed it since then. So I think it's an incredible tool. How can our listeners learn more about it?
So we've got 2 websites, prepwarroom.com, collegewarroom.com. Come on in. We'll help everyone from Little League to the NFL. We do everything under the sun. So if you guys reach out to that, or you can follow me at MooseB90 on Twitter. Just reach out to me there, or at warroom_1 on Twitter. We've got great information going out. We help in every facet of the game, and we're just here to try to make sure that you guys are taken care of.
Thank you again for listening to the podcast. I hope you find this information useful. I really think that there's some great coaching tools out there for you to take advantage of to help you build a better program, be more efficient, develop players, and ultimately win. Check out the show notes for links to all of these as well as their Twitter handles. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski.